celebration and things going on right now for this upcoming week, so there will be no meal next week. If you want to show up and bring food, that's fine. You can eat it, but there's just no meal. So just figured I'd give you guys a heads up. All right. So good morning once again, everybody. It is nice seeing everyone here this morning. It was absolutely freezing this morning. If you were not able to get out there, it was really cold, and that's saying something for me. My truck tried telling me it was 23. I think it lied straight to my face. I don't know what was going on. It felt a lot colder than 23. I was actually able to get out and do some duck hunting yesterday, and it said it was 18 with a wind chill of 10, and it was much colder this morning than it was yesterday, so it had to be somewhere. But I hope that we had a good week, at least last week. I hope that we continue to do everything that we're looking to get taken care of at this time of year, and I hope if not, I hope you have a good upcoming week, because if you didn't know, Wednesday is Christmas. So with Wednesday being Christmas, I feel like it's a little bit weird this year. At least that's my opinion, it being on a Wednesday. I remember it was probably, it was probably 2 or 3 months ago. I had someone come up to me from the first service, and they were talking to me, and they said, hey, so Christmas Eve service, what are you thinking about doing? What do you want to do with this? What do you do that? I was like, I'm not sure. They're like, it's going to be on Tuesday. And I'm like, what do you mean it's on Tuesday? And then we were kind of talking, and she's like, well, Christmas is on Wednesday. And I was like, oh, okay, well, no big deal. I still have 2 or 3 months until Christmas, right? And then last week, someone was like, hey, Christmas is on Wednesday. And I'm like, what? Like, as if I've never been told that before. So it is here. It is happening. I hope that we are prepared for it, because it doesn't really matter if you're ready or not. It's going to happen. And as fast as it got here, it'll be gone. So I hope that we're prepared for that as well. Now, I do want to talk about something first as we jump into the service here, because around this time of year, I always get the question. It's a good question. It usually ends up leading into a deeper conversation. We go through a lot of different things. But I always get the question, and this is not part of my actual message, so this is page 0 of 17. We'll get into 1 here shortly. But I always get the question every single year about, Travis, should we really be celebrating Christmas? And some of you are thinking, well, yeah, of course we should be, and I agree with you, we should be. But the reason they're asking that question is because they feel like historically where actual Christmas came from, they feel like maybe we shouldn't be celebrating Christmas. And there's the conversation that starts after that. And if you're confused right now, see me after church, we'll have a conversation. And then they say, well, even if we're going to celebrate Christmas, should we be doing it in December? And I say, well, I feel like it's something that we're continuing to do, so I feel like it's okay. Once again, I'm not saying that we shouldn't. I'm actually saying that we should. And they say, well, shouldn't we actually be celebrating it sometime in March and April? And if you're confused on why that could possibly be the time, see me after church. We'll have a conversation. But I'm asked this question every single year, and it always leads to a much deeper conversation and realization of what took place just about over 2,000 years ago, what we're looking at now historically. And I always tell them, and because this is always my answer, I say, if you are celebrating Christmas as the birth of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, then yes, celebrate Christmas. If you are celebrating Christmas with the sole focus on the Son of God and not the presents, celebrate Christmas. If you are celebrating Christmas for the sole focus of the virgin birth of Jesus Christ, Emmanuel, God with us, then you're celebrating the right reasons and the right time. Because in my opinion, we should be celebrating it all year long. Anyone else up for gifts all year long? Anybody? Okay. But that's my point. We should be celebrating it all the time. So if we're picking a distinct time frame, the 25th of December, which doesn't matter if it happens on a Monday through Friday or Saturday or Sunday, whatever it may be, and we're willing to celebrate it for the correct reason, then yes, we should be celebrating Christmas. And then they ask the next question and the follow-up and the follow-up. And then we dive into it and I say, are you celebrating Christmas for Christ or for gifts? And they say, well, we celebrate it for Christ. Then I say, then once again, celebrate Christmas. Celebrate it in December. Celebrate it in January, February, March, April, May, June, and July, and August, and September, and October, and November, and then do it twice in December. I don't care what you do, but yes, celebrate Christmas. Because we are celebrating the time in which Jesus Christ was born under the Virgin Mary so that we could have a relationship with him, and then he could die for our sins, and we could live with him forever. So if that's the understanding of Christmas, then you're doing the right thing. If you are strictly worried about the presents this year, or the food that you're going to eat, or the one who thinks nothing about the birth of Jesus Christ other than when you show up to the Sunday before Christmas and your Christmas Eve service, then that's when we have a problem. That's when the issue starts to get a little bit deeper and more problematic for you. And then that's when I want to sit to you and have a conversation and start going through things, because that's when the separation should happen. So, we're all on the same page? There we go. There's page 0. We're on to the next one. All right. So, this morning what we're going to do is we're jumping into and having a conversation to finish up our joy series. You remember when we were going down through and spelling out joy, J-O-Y, and we've hit them all so far. We've been doing a good job with it. I feel like we've been getting through them pretty well and having a good understanding of what I'm trying to get out of it, which is joy lies with Jesus, right? That's what we should be focusing on first and foremost. I do feel like as we are starting to finish up this series and we're jumping into this letter Y, there are literally 1 gazillion ways I could have taken. I could have asked you the question why. I could have went down through many different whys throughout the Bible. We could have done all these different things. But the message that I'm giving you today is actually funny how it came about. It's something that was brought to my attention and something I came across as I was studying for another message about 6 months ago. Some of you are thinking, Travis, you've been thinking about Christmas service for 6 months? No, I haven't been thinking about Christmas service for 6 months, but I'm telling you that this specific message I'm giving you today was something I came across 6 months ago, and for the last 6 months, I did not know how to give it to you. I didn't know how to present it to you in a way that would hopefully make somewhat of sense, so that you would grasp on the concept that I was grasping onto as I was studying down through this specific part that I want to cover with you this morning. And I thank God every day that His timing is perfect, because now we have to finish up for our J-O-Y series. So that's how it all kind of came about. But I feel like with Christmas being on a Wednesday, it feels different this year. I don't know if you feel the same way. I feel like it almost feels rushed. Now, if you are a person who is in the school system, then you are loving on a Wednesday because you probably got some extra days off than you normally do. You're probably happy about that. That's a great thing, but I'm not saying we should take it away. If we want to make it every Wednesday, that's fine. We'll switch it all up for you guys. But whenever it came down to me, this is the first year, probably for the past 4 or 5 years, I've been in the school system and experienced that time off. I have to work tomorrow. I'm going to work on Christmas Eve morning, and then I'm done. And then I don't work Christmas Day, and I'm back to work on the day after Christmas on Thursday. So with it there, not only does it feel like it's been rushed, but it feels like it's going to go crazy fast and be gone immediately. Right? So I feel like it's kind of changed a little bit this year. And with all of that understanding of how quickly it feels it's approached, how quickly it feels like it's disappearing, just stresses you out, doesn't it? Now you have less time to cook. At least it feels like it. Now you have less time to prepare. Less time to write your letters to Santa. Less time to get all of your stuff taken care of, and presents wrapped that need wrapped, and a house cleaned that needs cleaned. And if you clean it now, you have to clean it in 2 days anyway. So all of these different things that are happening right now, I feel like everyone is just really stressed out. Would you agree with that? Would you agree that this time of year, everyone is kind of like a chicken with their head cut off running around? Here's my question. We got some country, but you ever actually cut a chicken's head off and let it run around? Now, you actually don't want to do it because then it bruises up the meat. But I've seen it done. Okay? So the first time I remember ever seeing a chicken with its head cut off running around, I was about 12 or 13 years of age. I went to a friend of mine's house because I lived in Clymer, the big Mecca, Clymer, right? So I lived in Clymer. We didn't have chickens. And I remember going to a buddy's of mine house, and he's like, hey, you want to see something cool? I'm like, yeah. So he went and grabbed one of his chickens. He cut the head off his chicken, and he dropped it, and that thing was just running and flopping and going all over the place. We were losing it, laughing. We thought it was the funniest looking thing ever. And then all of a sudden, when it was done, his dad came outside. His dad was very upset with us. And then he said, here. And he gave us a bucket of soap and a rag. And then we turned around and looked, and there was blood everywhere. You cut a chicken's head off, the stuff inside's going to go somewhere, right? It hit in the walls. We got on there. It was on. He had us scrub the grass. Whenever I tell you where to scrub grass clean, we had to make sure it was clean because he was just upset that we killed all those chickens. But it was all these things that we just did. So we had to sit there and do that. And it was just absolute madness to watch that take place. And whenever I think about Christmas, I think we're all chickens with our heads cut off running around just like that. This is not in my notes, but it goes very well with this scenario. yesterday, Lydia had a basketball game in Shepherd. She had taken a girl. Amy said, "Hey, Lydia's got a game in Shepherd. We're going to go watch the game," because she knew I was going duck hunting yesterday morning, because that's something I don't get to do often. So whenever I get a day off, I was like, "Hey, I'm going to go duck hunting." We got 2 spoonbills. I was actually pumped about that because they're like not in this area very much. But anyway, regardless of that, we ended up getting these 2 ducks. We were crazy pumped about it. And my wife took the boys, and she even went to the game. And she said, "Husbands, you'll realize this thing real quick. Hey, since you're going to be home," how well's that going? "Since you're going to be home, we've got some things we still need to get. Can you go shopping for you?" And I said, "Sure. Where do I need to get them?" And she goes, "Honestly, the best place would be Walmart." And folks, whenever I walked into Walmart, boy, were there a bunch of chickens. And my goodness, was it a mess. There was actually messes everywhere. I don't know how people opened up bags of chips in the chip aisle and let them fall on the ground, but they sure did. It was everywhere. But that's this time of year, isn't it? We're all going absolute crazy. We're all running around. Whenever I was walking through, you see all the women, okay? All the women that are walking around with their husbands. The women are walking, and they're going, and they're on their cart, and they are just on a mission. They have this face on. They've got their list. They know what's happening. They're going. But the problem is, women, you have a mission, but then there's always side missions like, "Oh, look, that's cute. Oh, that's cute." Right? But you have a mission, regardless. You're focused. The guys, every single one of them is just flopping feet. Because they know exactly what I do. I was by myself pushing the cart, and I was flopping my feet. It's just one of those things you want to do. But you had to do it. And I found myself getting real stressed out because every single time, and I'm not joking, every single time I came out of an aisle, I had to stop and pull my cart back because someone was going right past me, right? It was just crazy. Makes you stress out. Makes you freak out. You're like, "Okay, I gotta go get this. I gotta do that. Oh, geez, Walmart didn't have this. Now I gotta go find a different store. And what about this? Because we have some groceries that we need to get taken care of. So I gotta go get groceries. I have to go to this aisle and that aisle, pass this person, say hello to that person." There are 50 people you find you meet. Every single thing's going on, and the more that happens, the more stressed you get out. And I just simply had to take a deep breath. Makes you worry a little bit this time of year. And since we worry a little bit, I'm going to have us work out this morning. Anyone here ready to work out this morning? Do a little workout with me? Nobody? Coach, you don't know how long I've been dreaming of making you work out. All those years you make me run those hills and hit that sled. Now, this is an easy workout for everybody, okay? I do ask for a little bit of participation here this morning, and I do want you to do it just to try it. I'm not going to have you stand up or kneel down or sprint around or backflip over here. None of that's happening. I just want everyone right now to sit up straight in your pew. Can you sit up straight in your pew? The people that were sitting there slouching are like, "Oh, I need to do that anyway. Thank you. Appreciate it." Right? So we're all sitting up in our pew. Now what I need everyone to do is take a nice, solid, long, deep breath. Ready? In. Out. Okay, you know what the amazing thing is? I've done this twice today, just to let you know. Same thing just happened here. Every one of you, with the exception of a few, had a smile on your face. Right? Just from a deep breath. Why is that? Why is it from one deep breath you feel a little bit better and you have a little bit of a smile on your face? And you feel like a little bit more joy. Isn't that crazy to think about? When you're really stressed out and everything's going crazy, the only thing you can do to make you feel better is what? When you're really, really mad and things are not going your way, the only thing you can do to calm down is what? Now, don't take as many deep breaths with me. If someone passes out, I don't know what to do. People that have played sports, you know this, especially basketball. When you're sprinting around everywhere and everything's going on, you finally get to a foul shot, you got to do what? Right? You got to take a breath. Calm you down. Get your body realigned. Have a better focus. That's what we need to do sometimes during Christmas, isn't it? Some of you are probably thinking, what in the world does a deep breath have to do with Christmas? We're going to get there, I promise you. Because as we go to finish out this joy series, we have why to worry about. I'm going to be jumping into that here very shortly, but I want to give us a quick review. I'm not going to test anyone. I won't ask Grace to come up and give me examples from the messages previously, but I do want to give you guys an idea of where we're at right now. So the very first Sunday of Joy, we had Jay. Remember what that was? It was through Jehovah comes great joy, right? That was an easy one. Then the next one we talked about the O, which was the perfect Omega. We talked about how Christ was the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. And since he's the perfect Omega, he is the perfect ending and beginning to everything. This Sunday, I have not given you a message title yet, because I don't want to give it away. So I'm going to be giving that to you a little bit later. But as we just took that deep breath, which I'm going to have you do here again soon, I saw smiles on your faces. I know for a fact you felt better in some way or shape or form. And there's scientific reasons for it. Whenever you take a deep breath, it does a multitude of things. When you take a deep breath, it actually reduces stress. That's why when we took that deep breath, you had a smile on your face. Whenever you take a deep breath, it also does something else I just saw recently, or here very quickly within this congregation. Sometimes it makes you yawn. Because as you yawn, your body is telling you your brain didn't give enough oxygen because you took a deep breath. Your body loved the way that felt. And whenever you don't breathe as much the next time, now your body says, hey, you need to yawn. Because it enjoyed what it just had. So it reduces stress. Sometimes it makes you want to do it again. It also does something with muscle tension. It reduces muscle tension or muscle pain. Yesterday when we went duck hunting, once again, not my notes, but I'm just talking about it because of the story that happened. You'll recognize if you hang around with me long enough, something we do together is going to make its way to a message. So I'm just letting you know up front. We went duck hunting yesterday, and as we were going, we actually had to walk about 800 to 900 yards through a bog. Okay, so it was just thick mud. Luckily, lots of it was frozen, so we could stick to certain areas that were more frozen than others. But there was at one point where I hit this spot that was legitimately, you might not think it, Pennsylvania, whenever they drain lakes, has sections of sinking sand in them, and I hit one. And I literally just started slowly going down, and I had to stop moving. Luckily, I was with a buddy of mine. He grabbed the kayak, I grabbed onto the kayak, and he drug me out. I was about thigh high in mud, and I could not move my feet. So it was one of those situations where, like, we went to this area, and I was sore whenever I woke up this morning. And the first time I did that deep breath with the congregation this morning, I did that deep breath, and I was like, wow. My legs didn't hurt for like 3 seconds, right? It was like quick, and then it was gone. So it helps with muscle tension and muscle soreness. It also calms your nerves. Anyone's nerves a little bit on edge this morning? Anybody? Some of you are like, I can't raise my hand because it's going to make it worse. It reduces anxiety. And you feeling a little anxious this morning? Because you know you got so much to do when you get home today? Taking a deep breath also lowers your pain levels. And one of the big ones is it allows your body to fully exchange the incoming oxygen with the outgoing carbon dioxide. Think about that. It allows you to bring in the good and get rid of the bad. Whenever I was at Marion Center, I was blessed enough to be able to go around and help certain kids with certain classes. And I got to sit in this one guy who I went duck hunting with yesterday. I got to sit in his biology class for 3 years straight. And we learned about this stuff every day, because that's basically what I was doing. So I was basically having to relearn all this stuff in high school when we were talking about this. And the crazy part is we need to breathe in oxygen, which comes from plants. And then we breathe out carbon dioxide, which they need in order for them to fulfill their purposes and to be able to go through their cycles in order to produce more oxygen, which is something that we need in order to breathe. Isn't that crazy to think about? Isn't God kind of cool? All right, so whenever he does all this stuff and all this stuff's happening, when you take that deep breath, you are doing that process. Taking the good in, letting out the bad. It also lowers blood pressure. Hence why whenever you are really upset, the only thing you can do that you recognize to calm down is take a breath. You ever hear someone say when you get real mad, take a deep breath and count to 10? It's an actual scientific reason for that. It's what we can do. So I'm going to have everyone do it one more time. Sit up straight in your pew. Take a nice deep breath in and let it out. There's less smiles this time because you know I'm watching. There's also less smiles because you're thinking, where's Travis going with this? Did you know that deep breath you just took not only did all of those things, but it also let you say something? Do you know what you said? You just said the name of God. Now you're really confused. Travis, how in the world did a deep breath just allow me to say the name of God? In order to understand what the name of God is, we need to understand where it's coming from, right? So let's take a look at the book of Exodus. I'm leaving it on a little cliffhanger here. Let's take a look at the book of Exodus chapter 3, and we're going to be looking at verses 14 to 15. I tell you what, let's take a look at 13 to 15. Book of Exodus chapter 3, verses 13 to 15. Some of you are thinking this morning, I thought we were going to be talking about Christmas. I'm reading from the book of Exodus. Believe me, this has just as much to do with Christmas as any other section of the Bible. Believe me. Once again, Exodus chapter 3, verses 13 to 15. Moses said to God, "Suppose I go to the Israelites and say to them, 'The God of your fathers has sent me to you.' And they ask me, 'What is his name?' Then what shall I tell them?" God said to Moses, "I am who I am." This is what you are to say to the Israelites, "I am has sent me to you." God also said to Moses, "Say to the Israelites, 'The Lord, the God of your fathers, the God of Abraham, and the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob, has sent me to you.'" This section of my Bible, if you're writing in your margins, if you're circling, marking, I want you to star this, circle this, underline it, whatever you need to, this next section that's in quotations from the words of God. It says, "This is my name forever, the name you shall call me from generation to generation." So the name that he gave us was what? I am. Do we know what I am is translated in and where it comes from in the Hebrew language in the Old Testament? That word I am is translated from the name Yahweh. Have you heard that before? We've probably heard the name Yahweh before, but maybe didn't understand the association between I am who I am and the name Yahweh. That's what that is saying. He said, whenever I have said I am sent you, he said basically Yahweh has sent you. The reason I had you star and underline and circle that section that says, "This is my name forever." This is God saying, this is who I am. This is my name. And then he continues and he said, "The name that you shall call me from generation to generation. Forever and ever. You will call me Yahweh." So some of you are thinking, "Travis, you have me lost. You say his name is Yahweh. You just said, remember, I took a deep breath and I said his name, but all I did was take a deep breath." The name of God imitates the natural act of breathing. As you inhale and you exhale, that's what Yahweh sounds like. Now, the name Yahweh, we have added in an A and an E in certain sections because in English language, it doesn't make sense to not have vowels in a word, correct? But the actual Hebrew translation spelling of Yahweh is YWHW, Yahweh. The only way to actually truly say the name Yahweh correctly is with not using your tongue and making sure your lips never touch. Are you ready for this one? Make sure you're listening closely. That is the only actual way to say the name Yahweh correctly. Inhale breath, exhale breath. Without you guys even knowing it, I had you take 2 deep breaths because as you were doing it, and the next time we do it, we're going to do it one more time. See how I'm spacing these apart? I didn't want anyone falling over their feet. The next time we do it, I want everyone listening to the breath that is taken. Because as we do that, you're going to hear now the name Yahweh in the way that it's originally supposed to sound like, the way that God proposed it to Moses. God, who do I say sent me? Almost like a breeze blowing past him. And folks, as weird as this sounds, and I'm going to tell you, you may think I'm crazy for it, the very first time I ever heard God's voice, that's what I heard. That's how it started. He was basically proclaiming right then and there, I'm here. That's exactly what he did to Moses at that time. Moses, come see me. Burning bush was going crazy because if it wasn't for the burning bush and God's entire presence showed up to Moses, Moses would have died on contact immediately because his presence is too perfect. So he came as a burning bush, and whenever he did that, he's there. He's even hiding his eyes. He said, take your sandals off. You're on holy ground. I know this must be God, but how do I tell them God sent me? Who do I say sent me? Yahweh. That's who sent me. I am who I am. So you ready for this? Let's all listen. Everyone take a deep breath in and out. Hear the difference now? It's the only way to actually say the name Yahweh appropriately. So here's why this makes so much sense to me this morning, and why whenever I was writing up this message, parts of it 6 months ago because I didn't know it was going to be for today, as I was going down through and preparing all these things and trying to get them set up, whenever it came across as I was researching and I found it and I heard someone say it and vocalize it, it gave me chills. Because it let me know that my focus of every breath I take should be on the creator of the universe. It also allowed me to recognize something else that was pretty crazy. All of us were born here, right? At some point. We're all born. We all came into this earth from our mothers. What's the first thing you do whenever you come out of your mother's womb and you're now in this world? You take a breath, don't you? From the very first time you entered this world, you took a breath. From the very first existence on your own outside of your mother's belly, you said the name of God. Here's my next question. What's the last thing you're going to do before you die? You will take your last breath. And with that last breath, you will be saying the name of the creator of the universe. God's pretty cool, isn't he? God set us up this way and knows that his name was that way on our breaths, on our mouths, and how we had to say it and how it took place. He knew that this is how it would all end up being, so that from the very first moment you become part of this world, you could start having a relationship with him. And then up until the very last moment of saying his name for the last time, you will acknowledge who's been there with you every single step of the way. If that's not pure joy, I don't know what is. If that doesn't just give you the most joy in your heart that you could ever possibly experience or feel, knowing that every deep breath you take, you are calling on the name of God, I don't know what else could give you that joy. I know there's nothing else that can have that level of joy that you can experience. Folks, this season you are going to be and have already been running around like a bunch of chickens. Going from this place to that place. Panicking in this area or that area. Burning this meal or not cooking this one enough. Buying this grocery or that grocery and worrying about this bank account or that credit card. In every single instance, I'm asking you from here on out, take a deep breath. And when you take that deep breath, realize that your focus should be on Yahweh. Because when you take that deep breath, you're calling upon him. When you take that deep breath, that's why you experience actual true joy, because without even knowing why I was having you do it, you were smiling after the first time you took that breath. God has no shortage of names. We know that. He actually is called by almost 1,000 different names throughout the entire Bible. But not a single one stands up to the name that he gave himself, Yahweh. If you actually go back through and recognize all the different areas in which we have translated the name Yahweh to something else, there are 6,800 times in the Old Testament that we have Yahweh or something in place of the name Yahweh. If you recognize, if you have your Bible, and you take a look and it says, if you take a look down through onto verse 15, God also said to Moses, say to the Israelites, the Lord. Do you see how the word Lord is in every single letter is capitalized? Hopefully your Bible does that. Do you know why that is? That's in place of Yahweh. I am who I am is Yahweh. I am has sent you, that's Yahweh. Those are all different times we have translated the name Yahweh into something else in the Bible. And in the Old Testament, it happened 6,800 times. Here's the reason why. In Jewish tradition, the word Yahweh, the name Yahweh, was too sacred for people to utter out loud. At first, it began to be where only priests would be able to speak his name in temples, and then it became to a point where even they wouldn't want to do it. So they changed the name to Adonai, which means my Lord. Another common replacement was the name Elohim. You've probably heard of these names before, but they switched them out to mean God or my Lord or something along those lines. But here's the problem with that. Every single one of those names, Adonai, Elohim, Jehovah, those are all different names to translate or to talk about something else biblically. The only one that designates God and God alone is Yahweh. That's it. Why do you think he said to us, "This is my name forever. The name you shall call me from generation to generation"? It was for a purpose. The name Yahweh is not associated with anything else other than God himself, the creator of the universe. And even whenever his son came, he said, "I will give him the name Emmanuel," meaning God with us. In other words, Yahweh with us. That's what it's talking about here. It's allowing us to have that understanding. It allows us to seek and understand the weight of his name. That there is nothing else in comparison. And the best part is every single breath you take, you're saved. Yahweh is reserved exclusively as the name for God. Yahweh is the self-existent, eternal God. Yahweh is a relational God. Yahweh is with us. Yahweh is unchangeable. And folks, Yahweh is the only one who will ever keep his covenant truly with you. I hope that you go about your crazy days as we are approaching Christmas here. As you go about your busy season, you recognize that name that is above all names. We may see him as Emmanuel, Jehovah, Jesus, Adonai. Recognize there is only one name reserved for the creator of everything, and that is Yahweh. So my question is for you here this morning. How do you spell the word joy? I would make an argument that today, after we've gone through these three services, these 3 Sundays, you spell the word joy, Y-W-H-W. Yahweh. I think it's absolutely amazing that God has programmed our bodies that when we take that one deep breath, you feel better, you're healthier, you have more energy, pain goes away, and you have the ability to see something that you couldn't before. Isn't that interesting how that all works? Knowing that every time you take a breath, you can speak joy into your life by recognizing the name Yahweh is before you. So folks, as we approach this very, very busy season for everyone, don't forget to take your deep breaths. Don't forget to understand that when you do it, you're saying his name. Every single time. I actually challenge you for the next 3 days. Every time you're stressed, pause and do what I just did right there. Every time you're worried or feel anxious or anxiety, or a kid keeps you up in the middle of the night and you can't take it any longer. It's been the last 2 nights. Sit back, take a breath. You will find peace. You will find comfort, and you will find good tidings of great joy in the name of God. You won't have any choice but to be happy when you do that. And if you're feeling really stressed out, do it 3 times, just not quickly in a row, but do it 3 times. Your body and your brain, your mind will have no choice but to flip the switch and recognize that God's right beside you. And there is zero reason for any anxiety or stress or worry or panic. Because He's right there with you, holding your hand. Taking that deep breath with you as you do it yourself, because you are calling out His name. To close today, let's all stand up. I want you to find someone close to you, and this is probably the last time I'll make you do this because next Sunday is not going to be Christmas anymore. I want you to turn to someone because you cannot hug someone actually effectively. Actually give them a good hug, and I promise you can't be mad. You have a smile on your face like you do right now. And when you hug them, I want you to say, Yahweh in every breath.
What time we eat? He might still make your own.
Just because of
Yahweh in every breath. Oh my God. I love that shirt. So you're gonna see whatever. Okay. Well, I mean, if you want, because Deb, talk to Deb, because she was gonna get an envelope, so she might have already. Did you get an envelope for Sandy's cards, or do you want to give them? Okay, okay. So, yeah, if you want to mail them, that's fine, but if you want to sleep they usually give you a receipt. This is for Chase, so just, I didn't want to give it to him. My other kids there the other day because there might be more there than they go. Okay.
I sent mine. Yep.
I'll see you later. Thank you, you too. See you on Wednesday. Oh, actually, on Thursday, are you coming to service?
Yeah, come Monday.